Hi Taurus, this is Kajora Lovely with your general reading for the month of March 2019. I also did a general reading for all signs that you can check out. The link is in the description box below. And in that one I talk about the astrology that's coming up a little bit, and also the moons, and it pulled some cards about the general themes. So you can also check out that video first if you like, to get a sense of kind of what everyone's going to be going through this month. But now we will get into you guys this month. So also, FYI, I am not just a tarot card reader, I'm also a Reiki healer, and I'm in the LA area. So if you're ever interested in an in-person or a distance reading or a healing, you can contact me, and all that information is also in the description box below. So let's see what's going on with you guys this month. And for those of you who are curious, I'm reading with the Radiant Rider-Waite Tarot, which is actually the deck I first learned on. Whoa. So right away I'm hearing you're going to be learning some lessons this month. Yay. Okay. All right, so where you are now is the Eight of Cups in reverse. So often I read this card as finding home, because it's usually about leaving something behind, but in this case, it's if you're leaving anything, it's to find home sometimes within yourself. You know, you can take this however it applies, but it can be finding a sense of peace and balance, restorative. I'm also hearing community. So all of those things, finding all of that that resonates with you and feels like home to you. And I mean, actually, starting off, it looks like you're in a pretty good place because you've also got the Nine of Pentacles here. Now, you could take this either way. It's usually about feeling pretty good about yourself, but in the sense that you're financially stable, you're settled, you're able to enjoy your money, what you've worked for so far, what you've accomplished. And because in this, it's a woman who is in her garden, has nice clothes, has nice things, and is able to sort of hang out with her bird of prey. So she's not just working. So that can also mean for some of you, maybe spending time enjoying the fruits of your labor and what you've worked for. Some of you may not be feeling this energy 100%. So it can also be about trying to find that within yourself. Where you also are, you've got the King of Cups upright. So you've got some emotional satisfaction, maturity, mastery going on. For some of you, it could mean that you're kind of, I often can see this as relating to relationships as well. Some of you may be feeling poised, ready to be in a relationship, like you're at that emotional maturity point. Whereas before you might have been working on yourself or something like that. So what's crowning you, an overarching influence in your life, is the Hermit. And this can often mean going within. This is also the sign of Virgo, so it could be a Virgo. But it's usually about going inward. And it makes sense because we're coming out of winter this month, going into spring. And usually winter is about hermiting. It's hermit season because it's wanting to stay in where it's warm and cozy and comfortable and there's light. As opposed to outside where it can be dark and cold. And so it can also mean that you may not want to be around that many people. And sometimes that just happens. Now, this can also happen as a non-seasonal thing, but usually it means that you kind of want to withdraw a little bit from the world. And also trusting your own guidance, too, at this time. But where sort of the base of the reading, what you're going through, is this Eight of Swords. So this means feeling trapped by something. And it could be, I feel like some of you may have some difficulty seeing the truth about what that is because you're still kind of diagnosing the problem before you can figure out how to get out of it. Let me see, what's the best course of action for some of you to take? For some of you, it can just be seeing clearly. Maybe doing some third eye chakra work. Oh, recognizing that your culmination point is coming. Something's coming to an end. This is usually about, there's an end of a chapter. It's not necessarily like the Tower or the Death card, which are more like change is coming, there's nothing you can do. This usually means that a chapter is ending. You're finishing a phase of life. And it's just a natural culmination of events. It's just something that happens. And so I think it's also recognizing that something is ending, that you're not meant to be in anymore. That's probably for your own good, because if it's anything like this, who wants to be in that situation? Looks like it sucks. As for the near future, you've got the Page of Swords in reverse. So often I see this card as looking out for something new, but it could be that maybe you're not looking out for something new. So that could be related to this, that if you're still stuck in this, you're not necessarily going to see other opportunities that are available to you, which actually makes sense, because what's also influencing you, at this particular point in time is the Four of Pentacles in reverse, which often I see as, well, the Four of Pentacles, because he's holding on to all of his coins, is about, holding on to your money. And that can be one of two things. It can be out of necessity, because you actually need to just, create a base that you can survive. But otherwise, it can also be someone who's being stingy, that they have plenty of money, but they're coming from a mindset of scarcity and lack. So they think that someone is actually saying, someone's saying, they think $4 billion is never enough. Don't ask me who that applies to, but if it's you, it's something to keep in mind. So, I mean, most of you, it's not you, right? But there may be one person watching this, or someone who that applies to. I think it's also that sense of, at what point do you feel like you have enough that you can breathe? So it may also be that, because in reverse, it can also be that you're coming out of that period of lack or stinginess, of scarcity, of that mindset. I feel like you always have to hold on to everything because you have to scratch your way for whatever you think you're worth. Some deep things that just came out there. So it's something to think about, especially if you put money on the value of yourself, to think about what you are worth. Getting some clarification on this Page of Swords. Oh, it could be because you're dealing with some emotional or family conflict. Usually the Ten of Cups, when it's upright, means emotional abundance, culmination, sometimes a relationship. But when it's in reverse, there can be problems in that. Or maybe something you feel like might be coming to an end. And it could be relating to this, whatever the situation is. So you may not necessarily be looking for other opportunities because you're too busy doing damage control, whatever situation you're in, or dealing with it, or trying to get yourself out of it, however that applies to you. As far as the outcome, you've got the Hangman here. So, the Hangman. This card, by the way, if you get readings in real life, in real life, like personal readings, and this card comes up a lot, I do offer a specific reading for this card that I offered in February, because this is a pretty interesting one. This is about feeling like you're stuck in a situation for a period of time, and you may not necessarily know why, but it's often a place that you don't necessarily want to be. It's not horrible, but it's also not ideal. And so while you're there, you kind of have to just hang out and learn the lessons of whatever's going on. And often it's about changing and shifting your perspective. What I'm hearing is where you need to grow. So it could be about analyzing that. So I would say with that energy going on, though, it's important to keep in mind that it does not mean there will be a quick, sudden shift or change. It means that it will be gradual and slow, and then sudden. So it'll take some time. It'll be more like, it'll kind of have to be stuck in a period of time, and then maybe you'll be learning, doing some reflecting, maybe some writing, some healing, some work on yourself, moving things forward, and then that kind of gets the ball rolling, and then change will happen. That's what I'm getting from that energy for you guys. But it's also a matter of making sure you're actually learning the lessons, because if you're not putting in that work and effort to figure out what it is that you are actually learning from this situation, I feel like that may not necessarily come about the exact same way. And what I do know about the general life experience is that if the spirits above want you to learn a lesson, come hell or high water, you're going to learn it. So if you don't learn it now, you're going to have to learn it later. So you might as well learn it now and make life a little bit easier on yourself, because that means that otherwise you're going to find yourself in pretty much the exact same situation and go like, which you sometimes you'll see people will do and then say, well, why does this always happen to me? It's much easier when you see it happen with other people, because then you can say, well, because it's almost exactly the same as this other situation that you were in before that's very similar. It may not be not exactly the same, but there's a lot of similar threads. It's something that we all do, but it's because those are the lessons that we came into this life to learn. And it's important to not put those lessons on repeat and just deny them, because it's an opportunity to move forward. And so often I feel like that's why you feel like you're hanging in that situation, because you're meant to get a lay of the land, see things as they really are. And so after that, it looks like you've got some work ahead of you. Work coming up. Sorry, the burping usually means that there's messages coming. It feels like for some of you, if you're looking for a job, there will be something coming up. I'm hearing moving forward. Not necessarily letting things down, letting things go, but figuring out how you want to move forward is what I'm hearing. Where do you want to put the effort in? Where do you want to work? What do you want to do moving forward? How do you want to live? Because Pentacles relate to the earth element, so that's home, work, and money. So, sorry, they've got a lot of messages with this card. Penciling it in. Hearing penciling things in, opportunities. Pensions moving forward, something like that. So, also with this card, I see this as putting in the effort for something. So it's putting in the work, putting in the energy, putting in the effort. So that can mean, it can relate to work or relationships or home, money, anything. It's anything that you want to put the work and time and effort and energy and money into. Anything that you want to work toward moving forward. And it may be that you're more in the apprentice stage, not necessarily the student stage, because you've got the Page of Pentacles in reverse here. And usually this card is more about like you're starting something new. So it's interesting because the way this card is, I often see this as kind of an obsession with money, because sometimes when people get this in readings, they'll get the sense that that's the main thing they're focused on at the time. And it doesn't necessarily come from a place of greed. It's just that that's probably the biggest thing they've got going in their life at the moment. So they're trying to make sure that they hustle to move that thing forward. I see this more as it's not that obsession. It's more about figuring out where you want to put in the work and enjoying it. And so it's not just, oh my God, this is my thing. It's more about like, so it's not a very good analogy. It's more like, it's not like it's your precious. It's sort of your purpose. As in Lord of the Rings. But so it's not something to be obsessed with in a sense. It's not something to be enamored with, but something to put your energy into in more of a workhorse kind of way. Workhorse probably isn't the right word, but more about like you're putting in the effort to make it happen. You're not just saying it's pretty. So the analogy that's coming to mind with this is the sense of being like, I'm in this relationship and look at these photos of us. Don't we look so happy? Don't we seem so great? I mean, everything that we do is like picture perfect. When in reality, you hardly ever talk. You fight most of the time. You pose for photos, but your relationship itself actually isn't all that great or all that healthy or even makes you all that happy. Whereas the Eight of Pentacles is, it may not be picture perfect, but it's because you're putting in the work. You're putting in the effort and the time and the energy and saying, I want to make this relationship happen. I want to put in and do whatever it takes to make it, not necessarily just like make it work, but of like, I know it takes, sorry, I'm hearing consequences. So that could mean like you're aware of the outcome. You're aware that your output will lead to something. So it's not just about, oh, this is a pretty picture. It's really like, this is something valuable to me. This is something where it means something to me to put in this energy. So that's the energy of these two cards. Whatever that actually applies to in your life is totally, it's up to you. So take that as it applies to you. And then you might be also this month or in the future feeling imbalanced, but also not yourself, because this is the card for your sign. This is the Hierophant, which relates to the Pope, also tradition, rules, order. So it could be a couple things. You feel like things are in chaos, out of order, not quite what you want. Some of you might be leaving organized religion. Some of you just might not be feeling like yourself. Some of you may be choosing an unorthodox or non-traditional path. You may be feeling like you want to kind of do something different. And the keys are standing out to me, which for some reason makes me think of secrets, of unlocking something, of seeing something for yourself to be real and true. So I think it's also maybe the pursuit of knowledge, higher learning, looking to the past to expose secrets. Ooh. So it could be, that could also relate to a relationship, but it could also be something, I feel like it's more spiritual, or it's knowledge based. So it's more that some of you are figuring out something where you want to direct your energy moving forward because there's some secret you want to unearth. There is something you want to unlock, is what I'm getting. And you want to find the keys to the kingdom as it is. It's almost like you have the key, but you need to go find the kingdom to figure out exactly where that lock fits in. Interesting. Okay, well, that is your reading for the month of March, Taurus. Don't forget to check out my general reading for all signs for this month as well. And I hope you guys have a wonderful month of March, and I'll see you again next month.